This project is about invasive non-native species, and it's about developing resources and strategies to slow the spread of invasive species throughout river catchments in Yorkshire. My name's Alison Dunn, and my photograph's on the right-hand side. I'm the one in glasses, and I'm an academic working on the impact of invasive species and also on biosecurity to slow their spread. To the right of me is Chris Hassel, who's an academic working on the mapping and modelling of the project. And the top two photographs are of Janet Richardson and Poppy Leader, who are the Impact Translation Fellows working on this project. Janet, Poppy and I are going to be giving this talk. Invasive non-native species are animals or plants that have the ability to spread, causing damage to the environment, the economy, our health and the way we live. So, for example, on the far left here is floating pennywort, an invasive species that can block navigation routes and can exacerbate flooding, and it can grow meters in a year. In the middle is the very well-known Japanese knotweed. It can halt construction because you need to stop work and eradicate it before you can build on the land. It's also illegal to allow it to spread from your land onto somebody else's. The tall plant on the right here is giant hogweed, and it can cause nasty skin burns if people touch it and get sap on their skin. And these burns react to light and can recur throughout your life. And invasive species can also affect native animals and plants. So the signal crayfish, an invasive species, is driving extinct our native white-clawed crayfish. Invasive species can be accidentally spread by a whole range of different activities that take place in the natural environment. That's because a tiny plant seed or even a fragment of a plant or a tiny animal can be accidentally picked up and moved to a new habitat. They can be moved around accidentally through construction work, through activities out in the environment, through recreational and even through conservation activities. Once an invasive species has been introduced to a new habitat, it can often establish and spread rapidly, forming vast populations, vast infestations. And as this happens, the cost of trying to control them goes up and up year on year. And it's frequently impossible to eradicate an established invasive species. In last year's government inquiry, it was concluded that it's hundreds, if not thousands of times cheaper to prevent invasive species from establishing than it is to tackle them once they are established. Biosecurity and closing these pathways of spread are key first lines of defence. This iCASP project is about developing evidence-based resources and strategies to slow the spread of invasive species through river catchments in Yorkshire. The project arose following a stakeholder workshop. There were many local authorities present, and the two key case study local authorities are Leeds City Council and Barnsley Metropolitan Borough Council. Other partners are the Yorkshire Wildlife Trust, Yorkshire Invasive Species Forum, Dales to Vale River Network, Yorkshire Water and the Environment Agency. The workshop identified four key project aims. The first work package is to deliver evidence for the socioeconomic costs of invasive species and the benefits of biosecurity to prevent their introduction and spread. Important evidence that local authorities can use to help allocate resources. Our second work package is to look at the activities taking place on local authority land and to work with local authorities to identify potential pathways of spread of invasive species. Our third work package is to develop materials and evidence-based biosecurity guidance tailored to local authorities and to users of their land. And our fourth work package is to work with local authorities to help them develop and embed standardised biosecurity frameworks for the local authorities and also for contractors in order to slow the spread of invasive species.
Work Package 1 consisted of collating data related to the costs associated with INS from global, European and UK data and literature. Costs associated with INS can relate to treatment and management, but can also include knock-on impacts on the economy. For example, loss of recreation areas due to floating pennywort, or the delay in building works due to Japanese knotweed, which can also impact mortgages. In 2002, the total cost of INS to the global economy was estimated at more than £1 trillion per year. Cost for England for treatment and management of Japanese knotweed is £152 million per year alone, whereas for control and treatment of signal crayfish, it is £1.5 million per year. In the UK, Himalayan balsam treatment and control costs £1 million per year, whilst local authorities alone spend £365,000 a year treating giant hogweed. Actual information on the costs of INS in Yorkshire are sparse. However, treatment of Japanese knotweed on the River Aire and Lower Don in 2008 cost £120,000. Treatment of zebra mussels by Yorkshire Water cost £120,000 per year. In 2018, Yorkshire spent £35,000 treating floating pennywort, compared to the Thames region who actually spent £600,000. Yorkshire is actually in good standing to use biosecurity to stop escalating costs. Currently, much of the spending in Yorkshire is related to treatment of Japanese knotweed and giant hogweed. However, the key point to this slide is that it's actually cheaper to use biosecurity than for INS to become established. One of the key questions in the co-design workshop was, what is the key route of spread of INS within catchments? In order to answer this question, this work package used a combination of mapping and statistical software to analyse different pathways or vectors of spread. Data from INS Mapper was used to inform the presence or absence of 3 key species across the Aire, Calder and Don catchments: Japanese knotweed, giant hogweed and Himalayan balsam. These species were chosen due to their prevalence in the region. We used a combination of open source data and data supplied by local authorities, including distances to green space, roads, pathways, sports facilities and different land use types. However, the main factor analysed was distance to new development or building sites. One of the main vectors of spread is human activity. INS can be spread on clothing and equipment used for construction, environmental management, transport and recreation. Understanding the risk of each pathway will allow limited resources to be used more efficiently. We looked at the spatial and temporal spread of INS. This work is currently in progress, and the outputs will be used to prioritise where efforts should be focused for biosecurity to have the biggest impact. The output of this work package will be one-page summaries for the 3 key species of Japanese knotweed, giant hogweed and Himalayan balsam, and their key pathways of spread within catchment.
Work packages 3 and 4 will use outputs from the previous work packages and also draws upon some findings from other projects that Ali Dunn is leading on. These include a very similar project but working to improve the biosecurity of organisations operating in the Yorkshire Dales, and an online course that anyone can do to improve their understanding of invasive species and the biosecurity measures they personally can take. Research undertaken on the course, which typically takes people between 1 and 3 hours to complete, has shown that 6 months after the course, people's awareness was much higher than prior to taking it. This is encouraging and can be built into the work that we do with local authorities. For example, we might suggest to people who have taken part in workshops with us that they can go on and do the online course. Work Package 3 will focus on producing resources using the information collated in the literature review and Janet's work on mapping the spread of invasive species. So far, we have produced some one-page descriptions of some key invasive species that pose a problem here in Yorkshire, and this is in response to feedback from partners about how we best present the information that we've collated in the literature review. At a later date, there will be a series of workshops. It's unclear yet if these will be socially distanced, online or in person, and this will work with partners to hone the resources that we've been producing. We're aiming for a suite of resources that local authorities will have to help them raise awareness amongst members of their staff, their contractors and other people that they engage with of the problems that are posed by invasive species and what role people can individually play to improve biosecurity. The really nice thing about this project is that by raising people's awareness of invasive species in a working capacity, it will hopefully have a knock-on effect into their personal behaviours outside of work as well. Work Package 4 will take the resources produced in Work Package 3 and through additional workshops and meetings, will embed biosecurity processes and policies across the partner organisations that we work with. All of the resources that we produce as part of this project, the literature review, the one-page summaries, the summaries of routes of spread, and any other particular guidance or reports or ways of presenting the information, will be made available on the iCASP website for anybody to use. The Yorkshire Invasive Species Forum, which we are part of, is currently developing a new website, and we will ensure that our resources are also hosted there to reach an even larger number of people and for the longer term legacy of this project. We will also seek other opportunities to raise awareness of the outputs, identifying channels that reach our target audience of local authorities and wider, for example, environmental professionals and ecologists. We could well find that they find these resources very useful, and their awareness more broadly will be improved if they're able to engage with it, and this could have beneficial effects for when they then do work for local authorities.
One of the main impacts of this work so far is when Dr. Alison Dunn spoke at the Environmental Audit Committee inquiry on invasive species last year. Ali's expertise in biosecurity was cited within the report, which can be downloaded from the EAC website, or you can use the link on the slide to our website to read it. The iCASP link also has a short video clips of the committee meeting. Future impacts of this project will be the uptake of the outputs to reduce the spread and costs associated with INS and changes in biosecurity policies and processes in local authorities. If you want to know more about this project, have uses for the outputs, or have any other INS-related ideas, please get in touch with us via email at icasp@leeds.ac.uk. Thank you very much.